To hoover or not to hoover? That's a question that can really only be answered by a narcissist. I want to take a deep dive and talk all about the narcissistic act of hoovering, how it's done, why, what you can expect, why aren't they reaching out, and so much more. Hoovering, named after the Hoover vacuum cleaner, is what happens after a relationship has ended with a narcissist and they reach out to you out of the blue in an attempt to suck you back in. The most common time this happens is after a narcissist has discarded you and moved on to another relationship. And when that relationship goes south, they decide to reach out to you. However, it can happen under plenty more conditions, and I'll try to cover as much ground as quickly as I can because there's a lot to go over, but we'll get through it all. A narcissist can really hoover you at any time, but there are times when it's a lot more common than others. Days like birthdays, holidays, anniversaries are very common times for them to reach out and try and hoover you. When their new relationship begins to bore them, you might get hoovered. When a relationship falls apart, you might get hoovered. One of the most important things I can stress in this video I want to do right now, but remember this for the entirety. Hoovers are desperate. I'm positive I'll say it again, but hoovers are an act of desperation. The narcissist needs some kind of attention, and people are not giving it to them. They're having trouble finding it. So now they're going to resort backwards and try to find something from you. There are also different kinds of hoovers. Every time a narcissist reaches out to you after months or even years of no contact, it is not always to get you back into a relationship. I want to repeat that. Not all hoovers are issued to get you back into a relationship with the narcissist. What I want to do is go over some of the most common types of hoovers that we might receive. The first one is the most popular, of course, the classic, the I miss you or I miss us hoover. The narc is going to reach out and tell you how much they miss you. They'll try to get very nostalgic. Remember when we went here, went there, did this, whatever. They might even try and love bomb you, but it doesn't always mean they want to get back in a relationship. Narcissists choose which kind of hoover they think you're going to respond to. This one just so happens to work most of the time. And I really want to stress the importance of that. The narc picks which kind of hoover they think will work best. So if they choose the I want to get back into a relationship with you, that's not necessarily what it means. It just means that is the type of hoover the narc is using because they think that is the one that in fact will work. Another common one is the I'm sorry. It's fairly similar to the I miss you, and you can kind of roll all of that together. I love you. I miss you. I'm so sorry. I've made a terrible mistake. I didn't realize what a good person you were. I took you for granted. You can roll all that up pretty much into the first two here. The I'm sorry, they fling themselves at your feet and try to tell you how sorry they are, and so on and so forth. Then there is the ever popular crisis hoover. Someone's dead, someone's dying, they're dying, the dog's dead, oh damn, they're in jail, they're broke, depressed, whatever. These are the most dangerous hoovers because a lot of narcissists play on this. They want you to think that they are in some kind of dire strait. They have no rent money, they're gonna get evicted. They've gotten some awful, horrific diagnosis with some kind of illness, something is happening. These are the most difficult ones to ignore. Not that I love you, I miss you isn't difficult to overlook, but when you think that if you don't react and something could happen to them as a result of you essentially being negligent, it's really, really hard to overlook this. There are hoover attempts where they actually say very little. They don't go into any kind of speech about missing you or whatever. You might get the simple hey or hey stranger. They attempt to be very chill, like nothing happened. Hey you, how you been? And this is the narc hoping enough time has passed. You're not pissed anymore. You're not heartbroken. This simple hoover also works really well because they don't really say anything. They're just kind of dipping their toe in the water, pushing the door open a little bit to see what you are going to say. When the narc says, I love you or I miss you, they want you to respond in kind. In the crisis hoover, they want your concern. In this case, literally, they don't say anything. They're waiting to see how you react. They're not looking for a particular response from you. This is more of a, hey, are you really pissed at me? And in this case, any response is a response in and of itself. It's much more of a passive-aggressive attempt to get you to open up and say something. The less common hoovers, which can happen quite often, are the, oh, oops, sorry, pocket dial, didn't really mean to call you. Oops, didn't really mean to send that text to you. Sorry, wrong person, haha. There are things like that. The narc tries to gauge what you will respond to and how you'll respond. Like I said earlier, not all of this is to get you back into some kind of relationship. There are some narcs that send really aggressive, really mean emails and texts and phone calls just to get the rise, the reaction, the anger out of you. Anything they can get as long as they're getting your time and attention. If you'd like to talk with me one-on-one and get some help and much needed support with what you're going through, you can email BookAChatWithJess@gmail.com to set up private chats with me. This is where I obviously have to say, if you want all this to stop, you have to block, delete, change numbers, get a new email, but all that's up to you. I'm not a blocker, but that's me. You're an adult. You're going to have to make that call. Save your comments, by the way, telling me I'm wrong for not telling people to block. Look, blocking isn't for everyone. I've done enough research over the last 3 years to know that for some people, blocking a person will send the survivor into a frenzy, a panic, cause them more stress, and actually make things worse. You don't know everybody else's situation. Don't be judgmental. Don't tell me I'm wrong for telling some people not to block. I am not wrong when I say you need to learn what works best for you. Some people can't block. It makes them very upset. Some people like myself don't block because I don't give a shit. So you're going to have to take care of this on your own way, with whatever works for you. Judge me. I don't care. Don't judge others. If blocking works for you, great. But I do know for a lot of people, it causes overwhelming anxiety. Since I'm on that topic, if you do have that kind of issue where you get anxiety, you might want to consider other options. Changing the number, emails. You know, sometimes it's nice to get a fresh start anyway after a really shitty relationship. So what happens when you don't get hoovered, right? I think there's a misconception about hoovering, especially if you get the I love you, I miss you, fluffy bunny hoover. For some reason, I think a lot of survivors and people in general seem to think that just because we get some blast from the past, that means that all of a sudden this person has realized our worth and our value. A lot of folks feel that if a narc or an ex in general comes back and says, oh, I was so wrong. I love you. I miss you. Please take me back. I've been so wrong. That's some kind of acceptance that they've done something wrong and there's guilt and there's an apology and everything's okay now. And it's not. Somebody coming back doesn't mean a damn thing if they're still the exact same person, which they are. What's more baffling is how narcissists come back and hoover and say all kinds of crazy shit, and we seem to think the same thing. The act of them coming back is so satisfying to so many people. They're back, see? They couldn't find anyone better than me. Now they realize how great I am. Now they realize there's nobody else out there who wants them, so they've come crawling back to me. This doesn't even sound right. None of this even sounds good. The hoover means this. Pay attention to me. Nobody else will. So I'm going to say whatever I can to make you talk to me. That's all the hoover means. No more, no less. But when you're not hoovered, when they don't find it actually worth hoovering you, there are reasons why. If you walked away, for example, you are far less likely to be hoovered. A narc will think twice about returning to a partner who's walked away. If you did it once, then you are prone to do it again, and the narc knows that. If they can easily get supply, you're less likely to be hoovered. Again, a hoover is desperation. They're reaching out to anyone and anything for attention. But if they have other valuable sources, they might not find themselves going backwards as often as others. If you've tried to expose them, caused a narc injury, or anything that touches that little ego, they're less likely to return. Trust me, I've tested this theory and I've done it more than once. There are a lot of cases where a narc just doesn't find a hoover a good way to spend their time, your old supply. We all are. New supply is more fun, more exciting. We're too much work for too little supply. We become a pain in the ass. We're asking too many questions. We're demanding too much, and we're just not giving out as much supply as they want. Basically, we're just not worth it anymore. Some narcs are clingier than others. Again, if they have limited sources, they'll try to get back into your life over and over, harder and harder. Think of it like a parasite with no host. They need someone to jump to. They're desperate for it. They'll take anyone, because if they can't find someone, it means they're going to die. There are also some narcs who continue to reach out just to make your life miserable. And that's where in stalky, creepy situations, more drastic actions need to be taken. Some of them can mess up your whole life. You need a new number, a new job. Some people have had to fucking move. So that's why it's so important to learn from these experiences. But nonetheless, a lot of people still want a Hoover, and I get why. I was once in the position where I wanted a Hoover, just one more reach out. I've heard it from clients, I've read it in articles, and even in my comments sections in my videos. The most common thing I hear about this whole situation is, I just want them to reach out one more time so that I can leave them on red, so that I can ignore them, so that I can just show them I don't have to answer them. And I'll be honest, I get it. We're human. Not everyone can block and peacefully move on and just not ever give a fuck again. Some people want the narcissist to reach out. Some people want them to care and change and come back. And yeah, I want to talk healing all day long, but sometimes, look, we've just got to talk about what's real. We want unhealthy things sometimes. We get mad. We get bitter. We want revenge. All of those things are real. Human things, normal things. Hate is real. Revenge is real. Depression is real. I'm not here on YouTube to tell people what they want to hear. That is not the place for it. It's not going to happen here. I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. That doesn't work. This is an extremely awful, unpleasant experience. I am going to end up talking about dark, raw stuff. That's just what happens. Some survivors want a Hoover. Some survivors have a hard time letting go. And guess what? That's okay, because it's real life. I'm not going to shit out a bunch of videos where it's fantasy candy land and we all block and ignore and we never want anything from them again. And it's all puppy dog tails and unicorn kisses, because you know what? That's not fucking real life. I want to make videos like this. Maybe you don't want a Hoover. Good for you. A lot of people do. Maybe you aren't angry. Cool. Also good for you. But I have a huge responsibility to run this channel correctly. And the correct way is to talk about every possibility, to talk about struggle, to talk about how you're not crazy, you're not alone, and it's okay to feel these things. It is normal after a process of getting abused and brainwashed by a predator. You won't always feel this way forever, but we are going to talk about these things. A lot of people want to be hoovered, and again, like I say, I really, truly understand why. But if it doesn't happen, there are also totally reasons why it's not happening. I want to know your thoughts about hoovering, so tell me down in the comments. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day, survivor, and take care of yourself.